But really appreciate the invitation to come and speak with you all today. I hope you've been having a good conference so far. I just want to tell you a little bit about my story and the background of how this all happened, because it started right here in Philadelphia. But to do that, I have to take you back to my childhood, but fortunately for you guys, I'm not too old, so the story isn't too long. So I grew up in North Dakota, in Bismarck, and I had a tremendous upbringing. You know, I had two great parents, and a younger brother and an older sister, and I remember, you know, playing sports on the weekends, and school was pretty easy, tons of friends. I grew up thinking everybody had a bike and was outside playing till midnight like I was. And I had a really close relationship with my dad. It was just my person. It's really hard to explain our relationship, but it was based a lot off of sports and sarcasm and wit. And he just has this very charismatic personality. Everybody just likes to be around him. Like, you know, my friends would come over and want to play with my dad. And just a great guy. And I remember having everything in my life figured out by the time that I was 12. I just was focused ever since I was, I can remember. And when I grew up and got big, I was going to have this big white house with a white picket fence, and I was going to go to college and get a fantastic job and marry this tall, dark, handsome man and have 2.2 kids, and life was just going to be that easy for me. And I had no reason to think that I wasn't going to have all of those things. And when I was 16 years old, everything that I thought to be so true about the reality of my life really turned out not to be. I was sitting home. It was the summer before my sophomore year in high school, and my dad came home from work early and asked if me and my brother and sister could leave for a little bit so we could talk to my mom. My mom's a teacher, so she was home in the summer. And we knew something wasn't right. That was a weird request. My dad's never asked us if we could leave, so he could do that. But anyway, we leave, and I was the first one to come home. My mom wasn't there, but my dad was now sitting upstairs, looking really somber and embarrassed, and not at all like this superhero dad that I thought I knew so well. And I sat down next to him and asked him what's going on, and that's the day that my dad let me know that he'd been struggling with a gambling addiction for the past few years of his life. And for any of you who are familiar with addiction, it's not like one day someone wakes up and says, I really just want to tell somebody about what's going on. It had gotten to a point where my dad had gambled away pretty much everything that my mom and him had saved for our family. And my dad owed thousands of dollars to people that we didn't have, and people were looking for their money. Like, my life felt like I was living in a movie. And unfortunately, that was not my dad's first introduction to addictive behavior. He went through drug and alcohol recovery when I was really young. I don't remember my dad drinking or using any drugs, but my mom did. And she was on the receiving end of my dad's tendencies for years. The lying, the cheating, the irresponsibility, him just not being around. And I just kind of thought those were the roles of my parents. My dad was the fun one, and if I wanted something, I went to him. And my mom was the responsible one who took care of everything else. And it seemed to work just fine as far as I could see. But they did such a good job of hiding those issues from me and my brother and sister, and they just manifested. And that day, when my dad told my mom about the gambling, she kicked him out. And that being my first introduction with addiction, I couldn't even begin to comprehend my mom's decision to throw out my dad, who, I think I have this perfect family, and my dad obviously is upset and needs love and needs support and needs help, and my mom doesn't even want to help him. I was angry. I spent the next 3 years resenting her. I didn't want to talk to her. I just couldn't grasp how you could do that to somebody. So I also spent those 3 years trying to fix my dad, setting goals with him and trying to understand, why don't you just not go to the casinos? Like, stop gambling and we can go back to being a family and everything will be fine. And addiction just doesn't work that way. You try to learn about, what goes off in somebody's head that you forget all the stuff that happened before, and to go to the casino and think, oh, I'm going to win all this money this time. It's going to work out this time. It's hard to understand that if you have an ounce of rationality inside you. And anyway, I couldn't figure out a way to help my dad, and I became the one on the receiving end of his lies and promises and 2 steps forward but 4 steps back. And it was really hard to deal with. And for for me, I needed something to feel good about myself, and sports had always been something that I really enjoyed, and I started running. I started to run pretty much every day, and just got consumed by all the life lessons that surround the sport. Taking things one step at a time, realizing I can't get to mile 5 without doing the first 4 in between, and they might be tough, but I can't get the end result without doing that work. And realizing that sometimes life's hard, and you're going to be on roads that are hard, and you have a choice to make, to either sit there and have someone come along and save you and take you to another road, or you can try to get there yourself and push through and hope that there's better roads ahead. So I decided, I need to go get everything that I said that I wanted in my life. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go get everything that I just, had in my head of what my perfect life was going to be. And I need to even do it better to make up for the fact that now I have this red mark on my life that, I was somewhat embarrassed of and could never fix. So I go to college, graduate early on this career path, go to grad school, really trying to figure things out and doing really well from the professional side. And in 2005, I get a job offer to come to Philly, and I really had no desire to come and live in Philly. It wasn't really on one of my top 10 places to be. But opportunity was really good, and I thought, I'm going to do this. It's a brand new position that's being created, and I have a lot of autonomy to try to build something here. So I moved to Philly. Again, career is going really well, and I was here for 2 years. And in 2007, I was 26-year-old, came at a point in my life where I felt completely alone. I was so lost. I had no idea what I was doing. I stayed so focused from my plans 10 years ago to just, this is what I want, this is what I know I want, and it was easy for me to just do that without really digging in deep to some of my emotions and trying to find the reasons why things had happened in my life, and dealing with, again, my dad's behaviors and all the hardship that my family had gone through. And I really began to want this sense of value and purpose in my life. I wanted those answers, and I realized the path that I was on wasn't going to allow me to get those, and that I needed to leave Philly. I had to go to New York or Chicago or overseas, whatever I had to do to try to discover what my mission and my purpose was in this world, which again, I don't think is specific just to me. I think we all feel that way at some point in our life, if not more than once. So I quit my job working for a nonprofit here, and I got approached by Comcast to go work in their government affairs department, traveling the country 80% of the time for this huge corporation that was really booming and doing well. And what a fantastic opportunity. This would almost complete what I thought that I wanted. And I thought really long and hard about if this would be a right choice for me. And after interviewing and meeting all these great people and thinking, maybe my mission isn't at Comcast, but I would be able to learn a ton about myself and travel, and would get me the hell out of Philly, frankly. So I was really excited about that, and thought it would be a good move for me, because I've never been in the corporate world before. So I thought, okay, if I get this job, I'm going to take it. Be a good learning lesson for me. And through the past 10 years, the only thing that had remained stable in my life was my running. I became a marathoner at this point, ran really early in the morning, 5 or 5:30 or so. And when I did live in Philly, I actually live in DC now, I lived at 13th and Vine, which 5 or so years ago was an up-and-coming area. It still somewhat is. It's called the Warehouse District. And there's a homeless shelter maybe 3 or 4 blocks away from my home. And I had passed that homeless shelter every day on my way to work, every day when I would go running. But for whatever reason, in May of 2007, there were these group of guys that were standing outside in the morning. And being from North Dakota, I tend to wave and smile at a lot of people. And I started to wave at these guys, and they started to wave back at me. And pretty soon we have this really fun, sarcastic rapport that's taking place for 10 seconds while I'm running past these guys. Them asking me if all I do all day is run, and me asking them if all they do is stand on that corner. And it was not talking to them and trying to make them feel badly, but that's just the way that I can be sometimes. I'm a little sarcastic. And they reminded me so much of my dad, who is so friendly, again, and engaging, and just a little bit rough around the edges. And one day after running by them, there's a stoplight there that turned red, and I remember turning back and looking at these guys and thinking, what am I doing? Here I am selfishly moving my life forward every day, physically, but also emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. And running doesn't discriminate. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, rich, poor, some cute girl from North Dakota or not. It can benefit anybody. And I felt that, these guys might be able to discover everything about themselves through running that I have. My self-esteem, the confidence I have in myself, my capabilities that I never would have known were there if I hadn't become a runner. And I wanted to share that with them, and it made sense. They live close by, I could pick them up. Logistically, it would work for me. So sure, I can start a running club for these guys. So I called the shelter and I tell him, the executive director, my brilliant idea to start a running club, and he pretty much laughs at me and tells me this is not going to work. These guys aren't interested in running. Do you want to come work in the soup kitchen or come volunteer at the shelter? And I said, no, I really don't. I really would like to share this sport with them, and if you could just ask anybody who's living there if there's an interest in starting to run, I'll take care of everything else. I'll get the shoes, the clothes, I'll be there 3 days a week. So 2 weeks later I get an email with the names of 9 guys and their shoe sizes, saying, okay, yeah, these guys want to run. And right around this time, I get a call from Comcast offering me an amazing opportunity. And I took it. I was too scared not to, and asked if I could have 5 weeks before starting to start this running club. And graciously, they said yes. So I was all, this was perfect. I had it all figured out. I could get this thing going, get people involved. In 5 weeks, I get to start this new amazing career and travel the country, and life was pretty good. So I sent out an email to everybody I possibly have an email address for, asking for shoes and clothes and money for this new homeless running club. And people sent in all kinds of stuff. And I remember looking at the pile of shoes and thinking, I don't want to run in those. I would never get excited about running in someone's old pair of shoes. Why am I going to say it's okay for somebody who's homeless to do that? So, right from the get-go, we got new shoes donated for the guys, 9 new pairs of shoes, and walked up to the shelter that night, the end of June, to do orientation and introduce myself to these guys and give them their stuff. And I walk in and the arms crossed, and I get these looks like, who the hell is this white chick, and what do you think you possibly know about us? And I obviously learned there's lots of trust issues with a lot of the members in the program, but I opened up about my dad and running, and how, how the stuff that I had to go through, and how running really helped me get through those things. And there was an immediate bond between me and these first 9 guys. And not only did they get shoes and clothes to run in, but everybody had to sign a dedication contract if you were going to be part of this running club. And it had simple language in it that stated, I'm going to commit to this 3 days a week. I'm going to be on time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. I'm going to bring a positive attitude, and I'm going to support my teammates. And everybody had to sign and date it. And these guys looked at me like, no one had asked them to sign something like that in a really long time, if ever, in their lives, to be positively accountable for their actions, that someone was expecting greatness out of them, to be committed to this and to come out and give it your all and give it your best. And we all signed it, and I signed it and dated it, and we had our first one on July 3rd of 2007. And I had some old media contacts from my prior work in Philly and wanted to get the word out to get more people to come and run with us, and the Philadelphia media was incredible. I have a lot to thank for them for doing so many stories and pieces on our members in this program and this idea. As people started calling and emailing, can we come run with you? How do we get involved? And people were volunteering to help with the website and to just so many things, and it was really generous. And all of a sudden, this group of me and these 9 guys was now 15 and 20 people strong. We started to put some structure behind it, and there started to be some more amazing observations that were happening with these guys.